What is up, denizens of the interwebs? It's ours, the Chats here, coming at you with another video, and this time we're talking about everyone's least favorite gaming company right now, CD Projekt Red. After their embarrassing failure with Cyberpunk 2077 and then their shocking redemption arc with Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, as well as Edge Runners being an amazing anime, it looks like they're immediately taking all that good fan will they had garnered and immediately pissing it down the drain to get rid of all of it and ruin their reputation with their fans once again. Of course, there has been some news regarding them in regards to a lot of the consultancy groups that have been a bunch of the hot button issues as of late, but this time it looks like they're getting directly involved with YouTubers, going out of their way to watch their videos and then countering them with bogus claims designed as nothing more than defense against said claims. And this is, of course, me referring to Endemion TV, one of the best YouTubers when it comes to getting the straight news, because a whole lot of insiders really like talking to him, and I can understand why. His videos are super informative and super well done, and you should go check them all out as soon as you're done with this video. Just finish this video first, and then go watch Endemion stuff. Or at least put me on mute and go to a different tab. And hail Endemion, I'll pin one of his videos that's related to this down below. But what exactly is the problem with CD Projekt Red? Well, like, subscribe, and we'll get into exactly what that is. Coming from PC Gamer, written by Andy Chalk, CD Projekt Boss pushes back on conspiracy theories against diversity in gaming. We live in times where anyone can record complete nonsense and make it a story out of it. And of course, the very first thing they decide to do is grift. This is the first line of text after the title and the author. When you purchase through links on our site, we may earn an affiliate commission. Here's how it works. With a little link there that I have zero interest in clicking, and as you can see, I actually have all their ads turned off because screw that. Now the CEO, whose name I'm not even going to pretend to attempt to pronounce, says that people need to stop peddling such nonsense and need to stop looking for conspiracy theories. The funniest part about this is, you know what the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth? Well, it's simply 6 months. And this definitely is the proof in the pudding of that all. Except for the fact that the CEO of CDPR is 6 months too late with that claim. He follows up by saying, it seems like we live in times where anyone can record complete nonsense and make a story out of it. Oh look, that's what I'm doing. It seems to be working pretty well for me and a whole lot of other people. I'm just looking at Endemion. His channel is doing excellent. Hail Endemion. And shocking enough to me, PC Gamer actually names Endemion in this article. I would figure they'd block it out as a way to try and avoid giving him more clicks. The CEO of CDPR continues on, we hire based on merit and talent alone, and then he also goes into their choice to switch to Unreal Engine, which is another major controversy because every studio is switching to Unreal and it's making a whole lot of gamers incredibly peeved. And rightfully so. Now, according to him, the reason they made that switch was because it enables us to work on our games more efficiently and we remain cutting edge tech-wise. Now, of course, I have a lot of issues with that statement. Because it's all a whole load of dog shit. The real reason they're going full force into Unreal Engine is because it's a whole lot easier to work on than their original Red engine that they were using for Cyberpunk and The Witcher. Unreal Engine comes as a stock product. It has most of the features already installed and you don't have to build things yourself most of the time, unlike, say, your own engine. And that's why most studios that are going deep into this inclusivity hiring are being forced to switch to it, is because the people they're hiring cannot function on their own engines. Which is, for instance, why 343 switched to Halo Studios and is using the Unreal Engine for Halo as well. But what's wrong with that? Well, first of all, it reduces the quality of engineers working in gaming, meaning that they're all reliant on the same engine. What happens if Unreal goes down, or Unreal decides to change their policies? What's going to happen to the gaming industry? We're going to have a massive reset. And the other issue is the majority of games made in Unreal look identical. They look sterile and bland and uninteresting, and they look interchangeable with one another, which is absolutely a shame. And that's not to say you can't make competent games on Unreal Engine. Such as one of my all-time favorite games, Dishonored 1, which was also rendered in Unreal Engine 3, but looks absolutely phenomenal, and it holds up even today. This picture kind of sucks because the aspect ratio is low, so it's a little blurry, but generally this game looks incredibly well done. It has an amazing art style that makes the game look really timeless, as well as really just giving character to the world around it and really making you feel the weight of Dunwall. But modern games aren't doing that. They're using Unreal Engine at the most default setting, aiming for a bit more realistic style that just makes the game look dated within a couple of years. And that's exactly how the Unreal Engine renders for Halo Studios looks too, complete and utterly sterile and boring and uniform. So no, they're not switching to the red engine because it's more beneficial for their brand or because it allows for them to do more things. They're switching into it because their hires don't know how to use the red engine and they're too bad at their job to learn. So they're switching to Unreal Engine so that their DEI hires can actually get some work done. And PC Gamer, while I will give them some props for journalistic integrity, I will not give them props for how they twist it. It's worth noting as a positive, that's the operative word, as a positive, that CD Projekt does make a point of embracing diversity initiatives. And I just want you to be very cognizant of how I worded that, because I will come back to us when we go over that Park Places article on this as well, in the absolute dichotomy of language. Because it is really how these two sites manipulate their audiences. Though I wouldn't say that Park Place is manipulating his audience, I would more say that's being honest. Whereas this one, it's really manipulating the audience to try and give you a specific spin on what's going on. But the exact specifics regarding their diversity initiatives is a commitment to non-discrimination in the workplace, such as their recognition from the 30% Club in their aim to boost the number of women in board seats, as well as scholarship programs with organizations such as Girls in the Game, which helps girls in high school take their first step into the gaming industry. And then PC Gamer continues to say that these and other related programs are good things. You are actively staunching it. But with all these goals being focused exclusively on women, now of course a lot of these organizations, they actually have it in their language that it helps girls or non-binary identifying people, which, let's be honest, usually just means women. But of course that means for a fact that they are discriminating, they're excluding against one group, just one group, and that one group, shocker, is men. So therefore it is explicitly discrimination because you are actively staunching a single group from interacting with the overall market, which is exactly what discrimination is. Which means no, they do not give a shit about diversity. They just give a shit about their diversity programs designed to raise their ESG scores, which they specifically mention on their website, ESG that is. And then as for the statement, a diversity of perspectives unlocks creativity and increases innovation, I'm sure that you know all about diversity of perspective. You know so much about it that you silence it whenever possible. Because let's not forget this whole debacle coming from gaming, the homo queer geek culture. Excuse me, I must now go and throw up. I'm also concerned as to why this article lacks a headline, but the whole point of this is that there was a mod added to Cyberpunk 2077 that made it so Judy, the only canonically lesbian character, bisexual. Because in Cyberpunk, there are 2 bisexual mates, and then there are a handful of sexuality-locked mates, such as River and Judy, who are only for women, and Panam and Carrie, who are only for men. And of course, a lot of people really like Judy because she's a very attractive individual. She's got a very kind of attitude that a lot of men really like. So of course, some men who are people who chose the male body type, since body type determines your sexual partners in Cyberpunk. So they went out and they created a mod that allows for almost all of the gender-locked characters to actually be bisexual, so anyone could have sex with them. And this was mostly done by actually just unlocking locked dialogue lines, such as referenced in this article, where they mentioned that the lines were simply cut content that were hidden in the game. Though they say it's not cut content because that would hurt their narrative. And then, of course, the reaction to the internet, from the internet to people doing this, and from CDPR, was absolute outrage. How dare you make Judy a heterosexual person? How dare you allow her to be in a heterosexual relationship? Why are you taking away her agency? So, of course, Nexus Mod took down the mod that allowed for Judy to be romanced by men, but interestingly enough, left up the mods that allowed for both River and Panam to be romanced by women. Though, the most interesting thing is I couldn't actually find any mods that allowed for Carrie to be romanced by women. That kind of makes sense, because Carrie is like 80 years old. But you know, that's mostly small beans. What about an actual really severe moment where CDPR 1,000,000% violated this diversity of perspective? Well, it happened earlier this year in regards to Ubisoft's use case situation. And thank God for Smash JT, because I almost couldn't find a source talking about this. I literally could only find it on his website. It wasn't covered on any other website that I could find. No search results yielded on Google. If it wasn't for Smash GT, I wouldn't have this story as proof that this actually happened. But earlier this year, May 19th, CDPR dev gets bullied into changing stance on Yusuke. And of course, it's in regards to the fact that Japanese fans and Japanese people are offended over the fact that Yusuke is objectively cultural appropriation. And Michael Callas, who is a developer over at CDPR, said, "The concerns and criticisms around Assassin's Creed Shadows are valid, and I personally think it might disrespect Japanese culture where the provided historical inaccuracies. People, especially Japanese people, have full right to oppose trends like this. And then a couple of days later, he was forced to kowtow and backtrack and say, I've noticed criticism regarding my recent comment about AC Shadows. After reflecting on it and reading your responses/retweets, I realized I owe you an apology. First of all, I acknowledge that I am not qualified to share statements or discuss such topics, because he's a white man. Your feedback has highlighted the importance of being more informed and respectful in my opinions. It has also shown me that we should be more open to new ideas and not restrict ourselves too much while creating new worlds. We all draw inspiration from a wide range of media, and that's great. I appreciate your patience and understanding. I've learned something valuable, and I will strive to do better in the future. I'm looking forward to the next AC, and the setting intrigues me a lot. Well, you're probably not going to get that game, so sorry to burst that bubble. But it's pretty obvious he didn't make that statement because he was getting backlash on Twitter. He made that statement because he was told to by CDPR. Because I'm sure his job was on the line, because he was objectively violating the diversity, equity, and inclusion standards that CDPR touts so loudly by making such a post. But now that we've seen how they are objectively lying about their statements that they respect the diversity of perspective, and we've seen how the spin is talking about it, how are the more honest, unbiased sources discussing this exact same news story? And that's going to take me over to John F. Trent over at That Park Place, where he says it out loud. Instead of saying that the scholarships for women and mentorships for just women are great things, he says what they are, plain and simply. It is discrimination against men. It excludes men. He says it straight out. It's the first sentence in the article, which is a great way to frame that because it tells you the truth. And sharing some more news from Endemion, it's revealed that CDPR is in absolute chaos right now based on who is actually still working there and who used to work in the previous games. Because a majority of the developers over at CDPR have jumped ship either after Witcher 3 or after Cyberpunk. Endemion had also noted that he was told that problems that are plaguing Ubisoft like diversity hires are also damaging CDPR, and has led to CDPR being forced to heavily rely on outsourcing for people to finish their projects, which is what we're hearing about with Assassin's Creed Shadows, where they need outsourced coders to handle most of the work because their people in-house don't know how to do the work because they're not qualified to do it. And here's exactly what I was saying to a T about Unreal, and I said this on my own, not because of what he said here. It's just great that they coincide. I was told the reason why the next Witcher is using Unreal Engine instead of the Red Engine that previous games did is largely because most of the senior talent that worked and understood the Red Engine are not at CD anymore, and Unreal is more of a one-size-fits-all engine that many devs are familiar with these days. Exactly like I said, they claim it's because it's better and it allows them to do more, but it's really because they don't have the people smart enough or qualified enough to work within the frameworks that they have, and therefore it's actually preventing them from using their own engine to its fullest extent. And as for those people who are leaving the game, leaving CDPR over the absolute bad state of the game, well, we've had at least 11 directors and department leads in CDPR leave back in 2021 following the release of Cyberpunk 2077. And I'm sure a handful of them were doing that just to save their reputation, but I'm guarantee you most of them did it because they were noticing the shift in the culture around CDPR. And then, of course, they do an amazing job here of pointing out the fact that, as a matter of fact, CDPR does hire based on diversity because they have an entire webpage based on their diversity and inclusion initiatives, where they specifically say that they engage in equitable practices, which equity is inherently antithetical to the notion of merit and talent, because equity is an equality of end place. Everyone ends at the same spot, meaning that what you're capable of doesn't matter, because what you're capable of isn't at all important to where you end up. They want everyone to end up at the same point, so the people at the bottom and the people at the top all end up at the same level regardless of their base skill. So it's honestly just amazing to see a developer get owned like this, get absolutely destroyed in the fact that everything he said in there was a lie or was cope. He made so many statements because one single video triggered him that he watched all the way through, and yet nothing he said was actually truthful and was immediately debunked by a ton of people on the internet. And it's really quite a shame that this is the direction CDPR is going in, because I personally think, as a bisexual man, Cyberpunk was one of the best representations of LGBT culture. It wasn't overbearing, it wasn't overly prevalent, and it was kind of degenerate, but the entire society was a degen society. It all really fit the world, and the trans character in it, Claire, is incredibly well done, and I actually really love the discussion around it, where you talk to her about her transitioning in regards to cybernetics, because she has no cybernetics, but she still went under the transition. And while in most projects that would come off as overly heavy-handed and really cringe, it actually comes off very naturally in Cyberpunk. And as for the gay characters, Carrie's the only one I actually found annoying, but that's just because Carrie's an annoying character who refuses to grow old. And it's kind of weird that you have, I did have sex with him because if you're offered sex in a video game, you're probably going to take it. But it was weird because he's like 80 years old and the same age as Johnny Silverhand, who's in your head. It's just a weird environment. But it still works. It all still makes sense in the context of the world. And that's the thing. Yes, Cyberpunk uses identity politics, but it uses identity politics in a way that is consistent with the world of the fantasy they've built. Cyberpunk has always been a very LGBT-focused game because it is set in a future where that's a prevalent thing. It's not saying that modern-day politics are at the forefront of a game set 50 years in the future. It's saying that 50 years from now politics are in a game set 50 years in the future. And that's how you do politics in world. You make it make sense to the world. But what do I know? I'm just somebody who's recording complete nonsense and making a story out of it. But you let me know down in the comments what you think about all of this, and I will see you guys on the next one.